It's time for a smartwatch that looks like a smartwatch. It's time for a new era of wearables. But most importantly, it's time for listener mail. And that's what you're going to get on today's early edition mailbag episode number 088 of the Pocketnow Weekly, the once-a-week audio podcast where we discuss smartphones, tablets, and wearables. From Boston, Massachusetts, I'm your host, Michael Fisher, editorial director at Pocketnow, and today I'm joined by Chief News Editor Stephen Shank of the Mid-Atlantic region. Good afternoon to you.
Hey, Michael.
Hey. And by Pocketnow's top man in charge of placing online orders and then regretting them, Senior Editor Taylor Martin of the No Money Consortium. Hey, man.
What you know about mailbag?
Know a lot about mailbag. I know a lot about you, like, having some really hard luck with your online purchasing decisions. That's what I know about.
Yeah, I bought a Bluetooth keyboard for my iPad mini last week.
Boy, that's lame. Yeah,
I did. Well, I didn't. The iPad mini has just kind of started collecting dust, and I wanted to use it. And now that I have it, I've started using it more. But 2 days after I bought it, I searched around before I bought it. 2 days after I bought it, I found a much better one.
You found one just like lying around your house that you forgot you owned?
Ooh, bonus.
No, I didn't know it existed.
Okay.
Hold on, Michael, what was that ew when Taylor first mentioned the Bluetooth keyboard for the iPad mini? Do you guys object to those out of principle?
I do. It's not that I think they're lame. It's just that I have recently used the Lumia 2520 with its Nokia Power keyboard, and I can tell you everything else pales in comparison.
Raised, yeah.
Oh, it is awesome. So it is the only instance that I would put up with Windows RT is to use the 2520 with the Power keyboard attached. It's so cool.
I haven't looked at any of that stuff. You published something,
yeah,
right?
So the video review is up, listeners, if you want to go check that out. Not of the 2520 because it's way too late for that, but of the Power keyboard itself. Although we are getting enough comments in the feeds where, like, if it was going to be a slow couple months, which it's not going to be, we would probably do a 2520 late review just because a lot of people seem to want it. And to be honest, I would love to review it, but it's just too late, guys.
We need like Nokia to come out with a slightly tweaked version, like it has a keychain attachment or something on it.
Yeah,
so that
it's got a lanyard hole.
It's new. Yeah.
The 2520B just came into our offices.
There you go.
Yeah.
Hey, that thing looks pretty sweet.
It's awesome. I mean, it's like carrying that thing around town makes me feel like a cooler person. Seriously, I wrote the script to the review on it. I wrote a lot this weekend on it. I even wrote a short story on it, if you can believe that.
Hey.
Yeah. First short story I've written in a long time, actually. But it was great. So I think that's a wonderful thing, and that's why I kind of poo-pooed the iPad mini Bluetooth.
So blasé.
Yeah. But I see Taylor has posted some photos from his coffee shop work environment using, I thought, the iPad mini with a keyboard.
Yes.
And is that
but I have a new one now.
So, okay, that whole thing is less relevant than the fact that you also ordered a Pebble Steel recently.
Yeah, that's what you were talking about.
That's what I was talking about. Yeah.
I knew what you were talking about, but I had my own agenda.
So you always have your own agenda. And the thing is, that is sad now because apparently this morning Google decided to flip the world upside down.
Holy moly.
Yes, they did, and that's why I'm late. I'm blaming Google.
Late because you're not in addition to traffic. You're blaming Google. I like what you said. Like you didn't expect Google to. What'd you say?
Up into the industry.
Yeah, and you always got to expect that, brother. You always have to.
Well, no, okay. I expected it, just not today.
I'm just giving you.
Yeah, this was earlier than we thought. It was bigger than we thought.
It was bigger than we thought. So this is what happened. We were planning on doing this show as all listener mail, and we're going to get to that in a little bit. And maybe Jaime will show up if the power will stay on in his country. We will see. But the thing is, we cannot just skip over this. It's an early edition podcast, so there's not much news to cover, but this is huge. I was on an interview with the chief editor of the Phone Blocks organization earlier today, and when this dropped, so we kind of had to cut that short and then hop on over to this. And I'm reading Stephen's news story about, what is it called, Stephen?
Android Wear?
Yes, Android Wear, the name of the whole program. And a variety of emotions washed over me all at once. Probably similar to those that Taylor Martin was having, because he was writing an editorial that immediately got torpedoed by this news. Right?
Okay, I had written like 1,200 words. Yeah.
So what was it? Speculative?
It was all speculation about what it could be, and that I figured it would be largely powered by Google now. Mm-hmm. and that's exactly what I said I wanted last February. I said that if Google made a smartwatch, or the title of the editorial was "The Smartwatch I Really Want Doesn't Exist Today, but It Could." And basically all I was saying is that if Google could make one that ran Google Now or was powered by Google Now, I would drop everything else. And lo and behold, a week after I placed my Pebble Steel order, Motorola announces the Moto 360 and Google announces Android Wear.
So what did you call your piece? What is the piece called, the editorial?
Moto 360 makes me regret my recent Pebble Steel order. So
them's some big words, man, because I have to say, what we saw today were just renders of simulated screen images on simulated wrist-borne hardware, and then Motorola released some official renders of what looks like, granted, a thoroughly arousing smartwatch.
Yeah, around a circular display.
Oh, it's so pretty.
Yes.
So, Marquez tweeted, he said, "I just want to know what the resolution on a circular display is." And I saw someone reply to him, "Pi."
My brain is exploding about that. So we got to talk about the circular display. So why don't we let Stephen tell us about the facts here? Okay, Stephen, take us through Android Wear and then take us through the hardware that we were surprised to find was actually coming.
Right, so Android Wear, we knew that there was some sort of wearable SDK that would be coming in the next couple weeks. So this is a little bit earlier than we were hoping to get the news, but not crazy early. Yet we were expecting it to just be, very much a developer-focused release, talking about the tools that be used to develop software running maybe on the watches themselves. That's not exactly what we got today. It seems that the SDK is more focused on the phone side of things, how to communicate to the phone, how to deliver these much richer notifications on it. Yeah,
I see.
And then beyond just setting the framework for the Android app side of things, Google also announced all these hardware partners who are interested in making the watches themselves. And we got these announcements from LG and Motorola talking about new hardware. Also companies like Asus, HTC, Samsung, a bunch of SoC guys have been mentioned. Everyone's going to be making Android smartwatches in the coming months.
Yeah, so Asus, Samsung, Motorola, HTC, was it? I listed it in my editorial. HTC, LG, Samsung.
Really interesting.
Yeah. So, Samsung, LG, Motorola, HTC, Asus.
Yeah, all these guys have chimed in to say that they're going to make hardware, but we expect that, right? So when this thing launched and I saw the video that Google had put up on its blog, and I was like, okay, cool, well, look good. I'm glad this is getting rolling. But what happened then was I was like, wait, hold on. There's actually hardware announced.
Yeah.
And one of them is this LG G Watch, which is one of the two things featured in the video.
It looks like the vanilla version of the Android Wear experience.
It does. I mean, it looks like a kind of an expanded postage stamp. It looks like what, like a Sony Smartwatch 2, would you say, guys?
Yeah, it doesn't look that different from anything we've seen before. It's software that's going to be the important thing here.
Right.
It does look hideous on the wrist. There was a very short snippet.
A little cut, yeah.
That showed it on this girl's wrist, and it where it's the watch face is so big and it doesn't concave or contour to the roundness of your wrist, I guess. This girl is wearing it and it sticks out on both sides.
Chunky.
Okay.
Yeah, if I can send you this picture, I will.
Well, it could launch though as soon as next quarter, which I guess is big news. But that's speculative, right? That's Engadget speculating there.
Yeah, I don't think LG confirmed any particular date. Did Motorola when you saw?
It's no, but just summer. So that's the thing. Taylor wants to send us a thing. We hit accept, and then he sends us the thing, and then we do a lot of clicks to try to get to this. There we go.
I'm just going to put my mouse right up next to the microphone so we get all those clicks nice and
make sure and get all those nice mechanical clicks there. Yeah, so that's a big old watch on that girl's wrist. They didn't exactly cast these actors for wrist size, did they?
No.
So these videos, listeners, are really hip. You should go check them out. They're just so hip.
Holy moly.
There's so much bicycle riding and running through airports and just gleeful, not particularly ethnically diverse people.
But isn't it weird? Taylor mentioned earlier about his expectations when he was writing his editorial, wanting this to be very Google Now, voice controlled. And I was thinking, we saw these renders someone did about a year ago we've been using them as our stock art for pretty much every Google smartwatch related story since. And they showed the square, the round faces, very heavy Google Now integration. It's pretty much exactly what we got. And I think that's kind of remarkable. It's Google delivered pretty much exactly what we were hoping for and have been asking for so long.
That's a very good point. And yeah, so we've talked about sort of the boring side of this, but the hardware that's really capturing everyone's imagination is this Motorola product, the Moto 360, which when I posted it on Facebook, what did I say? I was like, this is for anyone who still thinks smartwatches are too geeky to wear.
But it's not going to look exactly like this.
Oh, come on.
I mean,
I know it's a render, but you don't put out a render this detailed if you
it's not even a very good render.
It's a good. What do you mean it's not a good render?
I wanted to get some more information about this because one of the questions someone asked us, hopefully we'll get to later in the listener mail, was about the displays on these new watches. And I pulled up the picture from Motorola's site, realizing, yes, it's a render. They're probably not going to reveal anything about the actual screen tech. But I'm looking at it. This is just sloppily done. You can see, the round curve of the watch face is just, I know it's like a dodecahedron. It's very clear, polygon, hard angles. It's slapdash at best.
Well, that's because
very
it's not
shiny and chromed out slapdash.
I know, but it's not just a static render either. Like the whole page, the Motorola page for this is done up just like the Moto X page, just like the Nexus 5 page, where you have the very slick sliding animations. The watch face stays static. I like it, but then you can do a 360 view of the hardware and spin it around in the bottom of the screen, and the back of this Moto 360 looks like...
Why is it purple?
It's purple, and it's got a gradiated color scheme, so that the center is black. It kind of looks like there's a wormhole on the back of your watch that can... it looks like a portal to another world. It's really cool.
And it still looks pretty
thick.
It is
a portal.
It might be. It might be a portal. And
where's the orange circle?
What I love is that you've got this stem. You've got this stem control sticking out.
What the hell's that for?
Well, it's for winding, obviously.
That would be incredible.
But I think that's great. I think if that weren't there, it would really detract from the appeal of what is a really gorgeous piece of hardware.
The band is lovely.
The band is great. It's going to be available in a selection of styles, and we have this round display which recalls the Motorola Aura of years past. Remember that thing, guys?
I had to look that up after you mentioned it.
Did you?
No.
I was trying to find a teardown because I'm super curious about the technical details of how you implement a screen like this.
So I've wanted to do a throwback on the Motorola Aura for a very long time, and Taylor, I'll shoot you the link.
Yeah.
You got it?
Yep,
and I can't. We can't get one because they're still too expensive.
Oh, really? Jesus.
I mean, I think they're like $500 now, but they used to be $2,000 or whatever. But they're a very finely machined dumb phone. But
this explains why I can't find any teardowns of them as well.
There you go. Yeah, the Motorola touted the Aura, AURA, listeners, if you're looking for it, as a return to artistry in the mobile space. And it's a dumb phone. It slides. It's got a couple things. It's got gears inside that you can see and stuff. It's very cool. I really like it. But the relevant portion is that it sported a round display, and not just a square LCD stuck into a round housing, but an actual round display with round. It's circular. It's awesome, and so that's what this watch has as well, as this actual circular display, which.
Oh, this is pretty.
I am ready to buy this. And this is pretty. It's the Aura. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
The clock.
The clock face. Yeah. So imagine that, right? You're going to have a whole new generation of watch faces, ideally, right? Surely the provision is there to make custom watch faces with the Android Wear platform, right? Do we know? Can we confirm that?
I would imagine it's Android powered. So
it'd be stupid if you couldn't.
It would be very stupid if you couldn't. It's a dumb question. I withdraw the question.
The only downside to that circular display, is that, say in a year's time, 2 years' time, something like Minuum does come to wearables as a viable input option.
You're talking about a custom keyboard, yeah.
Yeah, it's not going to work on that display, or at least not.
Well, no, but
nicely.
New kind of keyboards would. How about one where it's kind of like a border around the screen and you slide your finger around, like a rotary phone or something, dialing your letters.
Yeah, you need a rotary dialer. And then we need to bring back that Nokia, what was it, the 3650 or the 3560 with the circular keypad? Does anybody remember that?
I remember that.
I'm leaving, guys.
Taylor's disgusted.
Protest.
The Minuum user is disgusted. That's hilarious.
Yeah. Well, Minuum is just a QWERTY keyboard squished down into one line.
Yeah.
I mean, just A. That's a pretty big change.
Yeah.
But it's after you use it for like 2 or 3 days, it's really easy to use. Just saying.
It's like you like committed some vandalism and went to a bank and like rearranged all the letters on its sign, and they caught you. And at your court date, your defense is like, "Hey, all the letters are still there." Like it may,
But backing up a second, I don't think that problems with software that's originally designed for square displays, and also this is something that I think Google's trying to get ahead of with specifically making Android Wear have built-in templates for circular screens. There are a lot of other problems with circular screens besides just the software side. I mean, just from a manufacturing perspective, when you're fabricating these things, you have to throw away all the extra space in the corners there. That's a lot of loss when you're making these things on the scale of millions.
Yeah, that's true. But I mean,
but that doesn't affect us really. I'm just saying there's more problems than just one or two here.
When you look at this render, I think maybe there are people out there who think it's ugly. That's totally fine. I get that. But I think whether you think it's attractive or not, you have to admit that this design looks pretty futuristic, and it looks a little like something.
No, it doesn't look that futuristic. That's what's so great about it.
I guess you're right.
It's very familiar
because it recalls the familiar round elements. I know, but
it's a very nice mixture of both futuristic and classic.
Right.
It really is. Yeah.
And so then even whether you think it's futuristic or old school, I think it doesn't necessarily look real. It looks like something a fan might have cooked up, and as a result. When I first saw it, when I saw Motorola's landing page for it, I'm like, okay, thanks for the renders, dudes. We'll see you in, 2016? But no, they're making this available this summer.
Shut up.
It's crazy, right?
Yeah.
I mean, I'm just blown away. And this is exactly the kind of thing I hope doesn't vanish after the Lenovo acquisition. I hope we're not all sitting around in a year, like, looking back on this day and being like, God, remember when Motorola did cool stuff?
This is just the first wave of these Android Wear devices. Hopefully, it's only going to get better from here.
Right.
I mean, who knows what HTC or Samsung will come out with?
Yeah.
Little quick side step here. Lenovo. I read a headline this morning from TechCrunch. Lenovo to keep buying companies until it owns everything, everyone. Did you see that headline?
No, I didn't.
I'll send you the link. It's not relevant right now. I just wanted to plug that really quickly because.
Lenovo should buy IBM and turn it full circle.
That would be awesome.
That'll be the day.
Speaking of awesome things, Jaime Rivera will be joining us very shortly. He's switched offices, so he has some power. That is a good thing. Oh man! So all right. So that's what else are we looking at? Wait, what?
Who?
What are you wedding? What?
I'm sorry, Joe sent an email. But maybe we should amend the original story, Stephen, of the Android Wear platform to include links to the hardware. Because I think the generic mock-up speculation is still in there.
Yeah.
We should probably change that.
Joe, for the record, I am putting this on the record, was completely and totally skeptical of this.
Yeah. Didn't Joe think it was like a big farce or something like that after it was?
Yeah, he's like, this is very much like Google and April Fool's Day, and I'm like, but it's not April 1st, and they have a developer website and an SDK.
Yeah.
I really don't think.
Wait a second. These have to still be mock-ups then, because the Motorola images on the site are renders, not actual pictures of the hardware.
No, they are. Yeah, but they're not. I think the implication of that sentence is that that we're not actually going to see hardware like this.
Okay.
You know what I mean?
I'm taking care of it.
Okay. Thanks. Well. God, there's so much cool stuff to talk about with this, but I don't know. I think we have to wait for more stuff to come out, right?
We're here to talk about, or to answer questions, right?
We're here to answer questions. We're here to talk about.
Why don't we answer some
and there are
questions about
so
Android
many.
Wear?
Yeah, in the mailbox about Android Wear.
There are
my
a
gosh.
few in there, aren't there? Yeah, no, that's a good question. I was going to try and stall a little bit, though, until Jaime could come on the air. So is there anything else that's been in the news?
I can stall all day.
I know you can. That's your unique skill set. By the way, our front page is full of wild stuff right now. Like, in addition to these. By the way, I'm sorry. I was on another podcast recently, by the other way, And I am out of control this month in saying like. I need to chill out. And I'm sorry. I'm apologizing to you gentlemen and to the listeners. I don't know what happened to turn me into a 14-year-old gossip-laden schoolgirl. But I'm going to, like, get a hold of myself. Okay.
And is always a great word to throw in.
I hate You know how many I take out when I edit this podcast, and they're all mine. All right. Anyway,
this is like instead of a de-esser for audio processing, we need a de-er.
We need a de-er. Yeah. Well, I've fantasized about that for just decades. And since before I was born, I've been thinking about that. Hey.
I leave the uhs in my podcast, just saying.
Is that right? Well, if you want to hear a lot of uhs, go listen to the Untethered podcast, hosted by Taylor Martin. He talks like this on that podcast.
Do I? Actually, I started out the last episode with a very, like, laid-back, casual me, which is not me at all. Like, I'd never talk like that, but I started the podcast, and I was kind of talking like this. I didn't realize it until afterwards. Like, I had hit record, but I didn't plan on including it, and then afterwards it all just kind of made sense.
Don't do that over here, because that would make me very, very difficult to put up with. You want to just make a podcast full of vibration sounds of Samsung tablets vibrating on counters? I thought that was fun last week. Oh yeah, Steven.
I think my roommate's still asleep, but I think I just woke him up.
Sorry, I'm editing the
okay. So while Steven's doing that, why don't we talk about some of the other things happening in the news? The Nokia Lumia 530 has been rumored. We might be getting a replacement for the ultra-affordable 520 in the Windows Phone land. Back in Android, LG's bizarro new stylus has been pictured, their slap bracelet.
It's not new.
Apparently it's not.
No, we've heard about this before, but these are new leaks in new colors and new product images from EvLeaks, right?
Well, it was never released as a product, but it seems like it's been around for a while now, either being handed out at shows or there's other companies doing the same thing.
Okay.
Yeah, that's what it was.
Special. It would have been cool if this was like the patent said and it had some sort of display in there, but it's not, so it's not.
No, hold on. You guys are both wrong. This is almost as cool as the smartwatch thing. Not because it's a dumb capacitive stylus, because really, who gives an S about capacitive styli? But because it's a freaking snap bracelet, guys. It's like it's 1991 again,
you're gonna cut your wrists.
Yeah, we're gonna slit our wrists, which never happened.
That has to be the most awful thing to actually have to use.
What, when you're writing with it?
Yeah,
it's going to snap closed if you squeeze the pen too hard.
Yeah, that's a good point. And then you're going to scratch your screen. I bet they replace a ton of screens on
face.
No, snap bracelets, though, I would give anything to have a snap. I want to go to an LG event, and if they are not giving these out, I'm leaving. I'm asking at the door. Like, I'll wait in line, and then as they open the elevators, I'll be like, do you guys have the snap bracelet stuff?
I'll see you next time.
I'm leaving.
Man who knows what he wants.
That's right. I want take notes. Please.
Snap bracelets and Samsung vibration podcasts.
That's all we're talking about. What else is it? Oh, nice. Oh, that's epic right there.
I'm going to go commit suicide now.
Okay. All right. Stick around for a little bit. The HTC One is going to be available for purchase. Is rumored to be available for purchase on March 25th on the announcement date.
Yeah, straight away. It's really weird, though, the way this is being announced.
So how is that? Tell us the story.
Carphone Warehouse put out an announcement about saying it would have availability on March 25 because HTC is doing these dual events. There's going to be the New York one and one in London. And the way they word this, they're going to show up at the London event. And it sounds weird, so I hesitate to even say it like this, but it sounds like they're just going to show up, get a bunch of boxes from HTC, get the phones at the event, hightail it on back to their stores and start selling them, which is a bizarre way to do retail in this day and age. You ship them to the stores in advance, they sit there, they sell them then when the clock strikes noon or whatever you're allowed to. It's very interesting. It's fun sounding, but it's weird.
Unless you're going to do like a parade, and turn it into a press event that way. But wow, all right.
The Pied Piper of smartphones. Follow us.
Yeah.
Do you want the terrible, terrible contrast to the Moto 360? An announcement from today?
No.
Yeah.
Not really an announcement from today, but this is from Engadget. It's the Phosphor Touch Time, a smartwatch that doesn't need a smartphone.
Oh, God. It's like a fat pebble.
Let's not talk about that ever.
That looks worse than the ZTE prototype that we saw.
Yeah, let's not talk about either of those things. Jaime Rivera, thankfully, is here to save us from ourselves. Let's get Jaime Rivera onto the show. We're adding him to the call. And for the first time in a long time, the man from Honduras is back with us. Hey, Jaime.
Gotta roll those R's.
As global as what?
Just make sure we were all in full R rolling configuration here. Welcome back, man.
Thanks, man. Thanks for having me. How are you?
We are all quite well. We've just had a wonderful kind of what would you call it, gentlemen? A celebration, a gawk fest, a drool carnival about the new Android wearables.
And a standalone smartwatch.
I thought you were talking about Romanian women. Sorry.
we were not. Although, yes, this is the first time you've been on the show since your return from the land of Romania. How are you feeling? How does it feel to be back home? Are you having reverse culture shock?
Don't remind me because I'll go back.
Well, I think that we could devote an entire podcast episode to hearing about your adventures, but I will only say that I'm glad that you have made it home safely. And I'm glad that the Pocketnow Daily is no longer being recorded in the sauna.
Tony was like, "Man, we're gonna get so many sauna jokes," and it's funny, we didn't get any for some reason.
Oh, you only got some from this side of the.
Yeah, I guess some people just like picking on Tony on purpose.
I guess so. Well, Jaime, you've arrived just in time for us to transition away from wearables and into some of the massive backlog of listener mail. Sometimes, listeners, the mailbag is empty or it's really doesn't have a lot of content. And this time around, we have a whole lot of mail from a lot of people covering a vast swath of topics. And I think it only makes sense for us to lead in with some of the wearable stuff. So, Stephen or Taylor, I know you guys have been selecting some. Jaime, if you need access to the inbox, let me know. And Stephen, why don't you lead us in with one? You got it. Stand by.
All right. Let's see. Here's one we got from James Talon just a couple hours back. He writes to us, "Gentlemen, any idea what screen tech is being used on these new devices?" Speaking about these new Android Wear models. LCD, AMOLED. I worry about AMOLED and visibility in sunlight, but like the battery savings, it could provide for mostly black watch faces where only the hands and numbers might need to be lit, something like active notifications on the Moto X. Conversely, an LCD screen could mitigate sunlight issues, but at the cost of battery life. Any thoughts on this, and any hints of the input provided so far about how this aspect will be tackled? Thanks in advance. Well, we were just sort of alluding to this earlier, talking about the screens on the Moto 360 and this stuff. We don't have a lot of answers right now, especially with the LG watch. The specs are non-existent. The Moto X, we know to expect this circular display, but beyond that, the screen type hasn't really come up just yet. And like you say, there's a lot of pluses and minuses to the various options out there. Mm-hmm.
There was an EvLeaks leak a while back. That's it was actually last week, I think.
Is this for the LG Google one?
Yeah, that was the LG watch should technically or is supposedly going to be an IPS LCD display with 280 by 280.
Oh, really?
Pixels? Yeah.
It's just a straight
allegedly.
It's just a straight up LCD, just like the Galaxy Gear. No, that's AMOLED, right? Gear's AMOLED, I think. Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, I would prefer to see AMOLED for the very reasons that James mentions.
Boom.
The black actually meshing with the black bezels and it saving power. I don't think outside visibility would be too bad because unlike a smartphone, I think you can probably twist this thing around and still see it in sunlight.
I think we've said this on the show before, but the LCD and AMOLED disparity in sunlight visibility is like, we should have stopped talking about that 4 years ago.
Yeah,
it's not a thing anymore. Yeah, exactly. It's something you can see if you're looking for it.
We should be talking about other technologies here. Transflective LCDs sound like they could be a great idea for smartwatches.
Aerosol.
Yeah, or an interferometric display like we see on that the Qualcomm Talk.
What a very Star Trek Voyager word of you to bring up. What is an interferometric display?
Well, much like how, let me put it this way, colors can be produced in a variety of ways. You can have dye-based colors, like we see in, that's not a dye. It uses a dye to simulate light. It's like, Morpho butterfly, those kind of blue ones that are very shiny.
Are we talking about actual butterflies or something else?
Butterfly.
Actual butterflies who are blue and shiny. No.
Morpho is the genus or species. No, well,
I'm not doing enough drugs, or I'm not going to enough places. Apparently, I didn't know there were shiny blue butterflies in the world.
But they're not actually blue. They look blue because of these tiny little ridges on their scales or whatever butterfly wings are made of. And when light hits them, they're just so far apart. They're on like the nanometer scale that it's interfering with them on distances equivalent to the wavelength of light. Okay. So some of these wavelengths are knocked out, some of them are magnified, and that's the same sort of tech you see with this Mirasol, the Qualcomm talk. It's very, very fine ridges, and so as a result of this, it uses the ambient light that you're getting from the sun to turn it to the watch's advantage. So it's not being washed out, it's turning the sunlight into its light.
Yeah, like old school BlackBerry displays used to do that, where
exactly
they were transflected.
Yeah, it was like paper, and you like shone some light on it, and it was like, oh wow, I can read this like a comic book or whatever. This is awesome.
That's what
I think some Palm Pilots did that as well.
Oh, probably, yeah, back in the day. Oh man. So I think what the answer to this question is, there's no shortage of display technologies that could be used, and we don't have any concrete info on what manufacturers are using which. I think it would be cool to see Mirasol on a device that isn't quite as stuttery and laggy as the talk myself.
Yeah, it's early though. I mean, that one was expensive, and I imagine a good portion of the price going to the Qualcomm talk is paying for that new display.
Yeah,
these are very early in the tech for that.
I'd also like to file a public complaint against the people who thought up the words Mirasol and Miracast, because I always get them messed up in hands-on videos, and then people always make fun of me in the comments.
Oh, wait a second, they're not the same thing?
Exactly, yeah. That's my problem. It's like me getting the years confused. I can't do that. So anyway, James, that was an awesome question. Thank you. Hopefully you will learn right along with us as we figure more stuff out.
Yeah, these are coming as soon as we hear. Next quarter, we should be getting our answers very, very soon.
Oh, I cannot wait. This is going to be so much fun. I'm totally buying 2 of those, by the way.
So you're not going to get any tan this summer because you're going to have smartwatches going up to your elbows on both arms.
That's right. And then like anklets as well. Yes. I'm doing the whole thing. Taylor, do you have an email selected?
Well, I was kind of curious as to how we're doing this, because there are a lot of red emails and I don't know where we're starting.
So you just had to like put a star next to the ones you wanted to read, brother.
Yeah, but I jumped in and there are stars beside a lot of them already. So how am I gonna I'm not gonna remember which ones I chose. I have a terrible memory, so it's a bad There's no way for me to mark one and you to mark one and to be able to tell who's got what.
Well, if your memory is that bad, then you're right. This system is totally useless to you, and maybe you should go see a doctor.
What Google needs is Gmail support for multiple users on the same account.
And that
should be able to see where your pointer is.
All right, Taylor. While you figure that out, Jaime, why don't you jump in and save us from ourselves?
It would be like that Pokemon game a million people were playing online at the same time.
I'm going to take an email from Imran Ahmad, and I'm sorry. People butcher my name all the time, buddy.
Yeah.
I'm really sorry. So he says, hello, Pocketnow chaps. Hope you all are well, and yes, we are.
Yeah.
Recently, among family and friends, so the subject of this email is Apple the new BlackBerry? Recently, among family members, longtime iPhone users have jumped ship to move over to Android, a la Joe Levi's sister. Really?
I didn't know that.
I didn't know that either.
I should read more of Joe's editorials, I guess.
Of course. Okay. They are very happy and wonder why they didn't make that move sooner. The main motivation for the move was the stale OS, small screen size, and cost. Cost. Okay. It got me thinking, if Apple sit in their laurels for too long, will they ultimately become the new BlackBerry, who, in my opinion, neglected to move with newer trends and suffer accordingly? It's interested in getting your thoughts. Pocketnow Weekly is definitely the highlight of my week, and it is mine too. Yeah. Keep up with your great work. Okay, so Imran from the UK. In short, I do believe that, yes, I do believe that Apple So Apple, it's very interesting. There's this book that just came out about how Apple is becoming a stale company without Steve Jobs, and it is happening. And the problem is that many of the companies that are dead today died because they sat in their laurels. It's not just BlackBerry. Palm died because they kept the Garnet OS for so long, and then BlackBerry died because they kept that old BlackBerry OS for as long as they did. And then
Nokia almost died because they kept Symbian for so long and it didn't really advance it. Yeah.
Exactly. Microsoft with the same. Windows Mobile 6.5 at times when we were already rocking iOS 4. So yeah, it's been a big problem of companies trying to enjoy their success farther than they can. Now, this is a very tough topic because, first of all, how can I say this? First of all, you can't really. So, for example, the success of iOS is really, the App Store and the whole ecosystem of everything that you can get with an iPhone. The fact that your iPad can run most of your, if not all, your iPhone applications. So there is a lot more to the iPhone than the iPhone that's given it its success. So it probably won't be as easy for Apple to lose as for other companies where Palm was just the trios and that was it. But the problem is it could happen. It could because, to be honest with you, iOS 7 is cool, but it's just the facelift for iOS 6. It's not really something revolutionary. And the question is, and I'll probably ask you guys this question, I mean, how much can you really revolutionize an operating system, guys?
I mean, well, it depends on what you're trying to fix and depends on how old your operating system is.
Like, for example, what do you feel that your phone should do that it can't do right now?
I don't think it's a matter of capability. For me, it's a matter of elegance and how I get to it. I think there's still a lot of warring UI concepts within Android, so I'd like that smoothed out. Basically, I want an Android phone that works like WebOS because I really haven't seen an OS that is as fluid as WebOS before. Shut up, I know.
So I'll give you an example. For example, when the first generation iPhone was launched, it solved a lot of needs. Like, first of all, the internet back then was terrible. Music on your phone back then was terrible. And sorry for the bird chips, guys.
You live in the coolest place ever. That's awesome.
I know.
Are you just hanging out with parrots or something?
I'm in the third floor right now. That's the problem.
That's so cool. All right, go
okay.
I'm sorry.
So back then, carrying music on your phones, if you remember back then, the most you could carry on a micro SD card back then was 2 gigs. And then after the 2 gig problem, operating systems were really terrible at reproducing music. You couldn't really buy music on your phone. You couldn't really navigate internet on your phone. It was, browsers back then.
Yes,
it was terrible.
Could. It wasn't terrible.
It was terrible.
It wasn't terrible. You could. I'm with you on the music. I'm with you on the WebKit browser being an improvement, but it did not. That was my number one pet peeve when the iPhone came out. I was like, oh, everyone's like, wow, I've got the internet on my phone. I'm like, I've had the internet on my phone since 2001.
No.
What? You're not impressed?
No. So did I. But listen,
yeah.
For example, when I was doing, and I wish I could do a video on this, when I was doing the throwback on the first generation iPhone, it just shocked me how the first generation iPhone, which was older than the HTC Touch Pro 2, could today navigate the internet better than the Touch Pro 2.
That's a solid point.
So it's just that. It did solve problems, but the question is, what problems do you guys have now that your phones haven't solved?
I mean, this is one of those things you got to ask me in advance so I can think about it. I mean,
the biggest thing for me is, especially in iOS, and I've said it a million times, is the ability to share a bunch of different things between apps.
Yeah,
so interoperability, hands down.
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah. For example, for me, like sharing, like Tony would take a lot of photos with the Lumia 1020 in Barcelona and then would just share them to me with the Note 3, which you can't do on iOS. That's another thing.
Right. Yeah. You just see. Yeah, that's right. You want to bump phones? Yeah. Okay. Let's bump. So is that the question though, Jaime? So what is the question here? Let's get back to the focus of the mail so we can move on.
No, the question is Apple the new BlackBerry?
Yeah. Do we think it's sitting and not iterating for?
My response is yes, but not necessarily.
That is so not an answer. Well, all right. In what way is the answer yes?
What way is the answer yes? Well, iOS is almost 8 years old. It's pretty much as old as Garnet OS before it was ditched.
Wow. That's some perspective, huh?
Think about it. Think about it. I mean, it's almost as old as Windows Mobile was when it was ditched as well. So yeah, it is 7, almost 8 years old.
Is there a lifespan built into platforms, or do we absolutely need to start from scratch every once in a while? Can't they just keep building on it?
Exactly. Well, that's the thing. I mean, the question is Apple the new BlackBerry? Well, it is because it's kept the operating system that long, but it isn't because their strategy is broader than what other companies were doing. That's what I'm saying.
Do you think Apple is more amenable to change than these failed or challenged companies?
That's, the thing is, they've locked their customers in so well with all the services that you've already purchased that it's really hard for somebody to move away from an iPhone. It really is.
We're never going to see like an Obama-style poster with Steve Jobs' face and change underneath, we
might. I mean, everybody gets tired of the same old thing. We need something new. I wouldn't mind if another Helio came along or something,
Could be. But again,
here's my thing.
Yeah.
I don't think Apple is necessarily resting on its laurels. Not in the way that BlackBerry was. BlackBerry was releasing, or Research in Motion at the time, was releasing 3 or 4, maybe a few more phones per year, and they were literally the same thing. Like several curve models, the 8530, the 8510, all of those, so that curve series, the 8330, between the 8530 and 8330, there really wasn't that big of an improvement. They didn't really change, but Apple, they're slowly improving things.
Well,
BlackBerry
think about
didn't
it.
necessarily improve anything.
But think about it. I mean, I when I was doing the After the Buzz for the 5S, I'm like, man. I mean, I still keep the iPhone 5, and I use it for running because if I'm like, okay, if I'm going to get mugged, I'd rather lose the 5 and not the 5S. But because that's a thing in my country. But to be honest with you, you play with both phones, and there is really no difference. And then my son comes in, and he's carrying the 4S that I gave him, and again, what has really changed aside from the design? Not really much has changed. Just like BlackBerry, just like Palm, not really much has changed from the iPhone. The only difference is that the strategy is broader. There is an app store, whereas in these, in BlackBerry, it was just the phone. How long did it take them to launch, the app world? And it was terrible.
It was one generation.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But we're looking at Samsung starting to do a very similar thing. And from the looks of it, HTC as well.
Yes.
The market itself is slowing down. BlackBerry died when the market exploded because it couldn't adapt. But now the market is beginning to slow down because we're hitting a ceiling or a plateau. Not a ceiling, a plateau.
Yeah.
I just don't think it's...
Now. You can't really
make
a one-to-one comparison.
I just don't think it's so cut and dry.
No, exactly. That's why I'm saying I think yes, but not necessarily. And again, even if that's not an answer, it's mainly because this is a very different market. We go back to the point. What exactly do we feel that we need that our phones can't do yet?
Something I will encourage everyone to think about as we prepare to move away from this question.
Yes. All right.
A final note, if I may.
Please.
This year, I think, is going to give us a lot of answers for Jaime's uncertainty over whether or not Apple is falling into these, BlackBerry shoes. The devices we've been hearing rumored sound like it's pretty significant departures from what we've seen in the past. So this could be the, show us what you got if you can keep evolving, or if you're just going to be, stuck in your old practices.
Yeah, and then we heard all those rumors of a teardrop type iPhone 4S or iPhone 5 back in the time of the launch of the 4S, and it was crazy amounts of rumors over this new iPhone and the way it was going to look, and it never got launched. And it ended up being the 5th generation iPod Touch a year later.
Yeah.
Oh, well.
Well, we will keep a close eye on that. I'm going to guide us back a little bit to wearables before we leave that behind in a bit. But while I do this, I'll remind Taylor Martin that he's on deck. He's going to be the next person to answer a question. This is from Eric L. With the intro of the Android Wear, it immediately dates the Pebble, making it look like an 8-bit Game Boy. Sick burn.
Ow.
Do you think the Pebble's lead time with apps will keep it ahead in sales? Or do you think Pebble was an interim fad? Or do you think that the Android Wear is the Atari Lynx of smartwatches?
That it's awesome and works upside down.
There's a translation there. Lots of potential, but will lack execution. So good questions from Eric Lynn. Let's take them one at a time, guys. Do you think that do you agree that this Android Wear, the products we've seen just glimpses of today, immediately date the Pebble?
Let me respond first because the dogs outside are having this sort of like barking game.
Sure. It sounds like they want to get in on this. Bring them to the show.
I'm sorry, dudes, but after seeing that Moto 360 today, I'm like, oh my God, the Pebble's dead.
Wow. You win overreaction of the day. Congratulations.
I don't know if it's such an overreaction.
Oh my God. If Pebble doesn't bring a colored screen on their next watch, it is dead.
No, that's not true at all.
I don't agree
Pebble
with that.
has battery life going for it. What else does Pebble have over this?
If you're not a Google Now user, why would you be enticed to use any Android watch or Android Wear watch?
I am a Google Now user. I love that thing.
Yeah, you are. But what if you're not? Like, there's
That's a good point. I'm not a Google Now user. I wonder if it would be beneficial to me. And I mean, just if I could run Google search type things, that I'd be happy with that. But I don't want it necessarily plugged into all my, all the stuff that Google Now does.
And we can't forget about the head start that Pebble does have. When its initial app released, I was okay with it or whatever. It's just a little app okay. And then it got updated. It was horrible. It was a terrible experience. I hated it. And I was like, wow, I don't like using Pebble anymore because this app sucks so hard. And now with its latest update, while it's not perfect, having access to the Pebble App Store, seeing what's on my watch, being able to drag and drop stuff, and seeing just how much they've been able to do with so little. Think about this. Jaime, you were just complaining about the screen on Pebble. But yes, it's black and white, it's very low res and whatever. But even with those limitations, this company is able to do some really compelling stuff. I actually used that Yelp on my wrist feature when I was out of town the other day to find a coffee shop, and like reading Evernote stuff on my wrist was awesome. So I really think you can't underestimate the innovative power of the people behind Pebble. And I say that not having met Eric Michikovsky and Terrence, who doesn't exist. Taylor, you did, and I don't know. You can speak more to that.
Pebble is more worried about simplicity, and I think that Google Now brings a lot of that with it because it is automated. So the disparity between having Google Now or this Android Wear on your watch versus, say, the Galaxy Gear, something I've admittedly never used, is the sort of interaction you have with it. On Galaxy Gear, you're going to have to call things up. You're going to have to navigate and find things. Oh, my Moto X is... it's calling to me because I said Google. But that's something you have to interact with the gear because it's not automated. It's not powered by Google Now. So in that respect, the Android Wear is much more automated. It's something that is suited for a wearable. But in terms of Pebble is more of a direct competitor now with the App Store to Galaxy Gear than, say, these Android Wear devices. It's really difficult to say, but I think the only way... this is really tough. I would love to see... Yeah, I can. I just don't know...
You're getting there. You're going to get to the heart of the meeting.
It's hard to process because I don't think Pebble's dead, but I personally don't have a reason to buy a Pebble Steel now.
Because you're heavily ingrained in the Google ecosystem, like most of us.
Right.
There's also a big thing we don't know yet is what the app situation is going to look like on these Android Wear watches themselves. We've been talking a lot about how they connect with our phones, but a lot of the appeal from Pebble that we're talking about now is the new wave of apps that run right on the watch. Are we going to see things like that on Android Wear that are going to be as useful?
That's a good question. Do we have any hints from the SDK on that?
Not a time.
No, the only thing... I perused the developer site for probably about 10, 15 minutes.
Yeah. And
really all I saw a lot of in there was just notifications. It was how to update your current apps to present beautiful notifications on Android Wear, and that's really all that's in there right now.
Now the
also said that more APIs are coming later, so maybe this is something that we'll learn about.
Yeah, it's obviously a work in progress, but the question is how, because I haven't really found this, but Android Wear is working on the iPhone, right?
That's unbeknownst to me.
I don't think that's announced.
Okay, so see, here's the thing. I agree. Probably my comment about Pebble's debt is probably drastic, but think about it. Android Wear is just making, if Google makes this a cross-platform thing, they are going to destroy everything. I mean, that's just the way it's going to be.
Right. Who's going to develop Pebble apps if everyone's on these Android Wear ones now?
Exactly. I mean, just think about it. Unless, so again, if the Pebble is going to be the smartwatch for the iPhone, then that's fine. But we've got the rumors for the iWatch. So we go back to the time when Android was announced initially in 2008. Everybody was like, "Oh, there's this new operating system," and nobody really cared. But then again, there was just so much momentum and potential because Google is Google that there came a point where it was just unstoppable, and all these small companies ended up dying. So again, how do I see Pebble? I love the Pebble Steel. I want a Pebble Steel, and I will buy one. But that being said, if Apple launches an iWatch, I'm sorry, Pebble. It is going to be a very grim future, if not ending up being purchased by somebody.
It's just like I understand that there's a danger here, right? But we cannot overlook the fact that there were smartwatches before Pebble. Some of them even came from the same people, the Alerta people, and that
was Pebble.
Yeah, I know, but it wasn't the same exact group of people. So, like, that being said, nobody managed to get it right, in my opinion, before Pebble. Pebble is huge because they were the first to get the formula right between affordability, bare essentials in terms of hardware, but also functionality. I mean, it works very well.
But see, that's the thing. Pebble isn't huge. It's probably the most popular smartwatch right now, but it's not a big company. I guess that's the point that I'm making.
No, it's not a big company, but I would take issue with your assertion that it's not huge. In the wearable space, I think there's nothing huger.
Yeah, qualified in the wearable space.
That is true, but that's what we're talking about, right?
I know, but do you see ads for Pebble?
No. I mean, how big is that market is the question.
It's to us.
So is the question, can they scale?
Okay, I don't think they're going to be able to scale. I mean, unless...
Do you think they're going to get bought?
Now, here...
Jaime?
Is he still on the call?
Jaime, we're losing you.
I pressed the mute button, sorry.
Oh, okay, all right.
So if here's the thing. The good thing about Pebble is that they are a smartwatch maker, meaning what limits them to adopt Android Wear? Nothing.
Wait, I don't... Make me understand that question better.
What limits them?
Could Pebble be a partner? Could Pebble be an Android Wear partner? Is that your question?
Why not?
I was getting to that point because they've spent over a year and a half developing its own ecosystem and its own operating system. It's not just kind of like, let's do this now, because that's a lot of time wasted, and a lot of developers would be really upset.
Well, what if they did both?
I'll give you this much exactly. How about Pebble Classic and Pebble Android or something? If they're smart enough to do that, and they're smart enough to be the first ones out there with something like that, they can scale.
And they won't be the first ones out there. Motorola is going to be the first ones out there.
Yeah, we already know that. But if they're among the first, if they're like, okay, we have the Pebble Steel, now let's make an Android variant. They do have an ability to scale that way. Because
it took a year to develop the Pebble Steel, and that's just a minor change from the original. These guys are not built for swiftly keeping up with.
Sure, and they can. That's part of their scale. It's they don't have the ability to turn on a dime and go. I think Pebble Steel was actually churned out pretty quickly. Yeah,
they didn't want to completely revamp it. They wanted a small, slight change.
And we have seen instances of this idea that Jaime's, postulating. This is maybe not a great example, but Palm did it with the Trio.
Yeah, the 600.
No, the Trio Pro is what I was thinking of. That was Windows Mobile powered, and it had an entirely different design aesthetic from everything else. Actually, HTC built it for them. But the point is, Palm was doing it for a while, where they ran OS, they ran Garnet OS on one line and Windows Mobile on the other. Of course, it didn't work out in the end for Palm, but there are other companies. I'm sure there are other examples that are better that I can't think of right now. So I think it's possible that Pebble could elect to do this ultimately. But Taylor, I agree with you. I don't think it's particularly likely given their investment in their existing ecosystem.
Right. It's not impossible, but it's not likely either.
This has got to be a fun day in the Pebble offices.
I was just thinking that. It's funny because I just looked for Miriam. I just looked to see if Miriam was online, and she's not, because I was going to be like, hey, get in here real quick. Let's talk about this. But I'm sure they're busy.
I'm sure they are.
I was actually thinking the same thing. I'm like, if I were there in that office, I'd be like, oh, my God.
Man. I really don't think that this is a death knell of any sort, though.
No.
And that that's not just my big Pebble check talking. That's not my thousands of dollars from Pebble talking.
It is a huge pivot point for the industry.
Yeah.
But it's a very good one.
Agreed. I think this has legitimized the smartwatch in a way that maybe Pebble was too small to do and Samsung was too dumb to do. I don't know. I can't think of a better. I could probably think of a kinder analogy than that, considering I'm the only person in the world who likes the Galaxy Gear. But maybe Samsung bit off more than I could chew in that respect. Let me ask you guys, what do you guys think this does to the Gear line?
We got a question about that in the mailbox.
Oh, read it, Stephen. Read it.
Yeah,
Let's pivot to that.
Where are you? Okay,
I don't get to read it. Whatever.
Short one from Michael Newman, who asks, do you think Samsung will drop Tizen for Android Wear if the platform succeeds?
This is Michael Newman, you say?
Yes.
All right. Well, what do we think about that?
Well, in the same respect that we're talking about Pebble supporting Pebble OS and Android Wear, Samsung is in a position to do that more efficiently because we've seen it do it. It supports Windows Phone, Android, Beta, and now it's working on Tizen. So I don't think Samsung has to choose. Why would they? Samsung has the ability to be like, all right, here are our Gear watches, and here are our Galaxy Gear watches. Going back to Galaxy,
I think it certainly could. I mean, we know that the Gear hardware that we've seen already is relatively high end as far as smartwatch hardware goes. It's flexible. The original Gear, which came running Android, although you wouldn't necessarily know it from looking at it, is getting upgraded to Tizen, like the Gear 2 and the Gear 2 Neo. Right. So I think it's possible that even these existing devices could get converted to Android Wear. I don't think it will happen, but maybe we could see these multiple lines then, where there's the Tizen watches, then we get the Galaxy Wear or whatever Samsung wants to call it. But it could. I don't know if it's smart for the company to do so, though.
Why not?
Well, because it's going to split the developer interest. When the only way for these Tizen watches to really catch on is if they have really great selection of apps. I mean, Samsung's making a huge roll of the dice here, trying to get people over to this new ecosystem. It's a lot like what Pebble is doing.
Can I poke a hole in your whole theory?
Poke away.
Let's just assume that Samsung, as a reaction to Android Wear, puts out even more S-Voice integration for its Android or its Android lineup. And builds.
You mean no integration?
And builds the Gear lineup around S-Voice. Now, Michael's reaction right there just answers everything. But who in their right mind is going to choose an S-Voice powered Gear over an Android-powered watch, an Android
I would
Wear?
say the same thing about a Tizen phone when we eventually see them over an Android phone. But Samsung has it in its mind that if it wills this to happen enough, that people will embrace this new ecosystem.
I'll tell you this.
It's crazy, but
I'll tell you this much. Probably one of the most interesting things that I've seen here in my country is every one of my friends that owns a Galaxy Note 3 carrying a Galaxy Gear. Samsung is doing a good job in marketing the fact that both work together. And obviously with the traction of the Galaxy lineup and with the whole fitness thing that they're trying to push, even call it real or fake, with that sort of heart rate sensor and everything, the fact that they are trying to marry both things is, it's really the smart way to go. The Galaxy smartphones are the best sold.
I think they're going to lose that when Android Wear really takes off, because right now the watches that have been working, like Pebble, it works with ton of smartwatches, but there's not a lot of deep integration like we saw with, unless you're using all these apps to add in customize the notifications and things you want. But Gear was so beneficial because it was very intimately tied to the Samsung software on these phones. With Android Wear, I think we're going to see the same thing across Android as a whole, and Samsung's going to lose that as its the feature it has is this really great compatibility.
That's a solid possibility, and Jaime, I think you've not made a point that I can argue against. I really have always said that Samsung is really good at marketing the Gear because it always positions it as a companion, and while it doesn't always get pricing right, and it certainly doesn't get feature execution right, it paired it for a launch partner. The Galaxy Gear and the Note 3 was a perfect match because the Note 3 is big enough that you don't always want to take it out of your pocket to check it.
Exactly.
Yeah. So
exactly.
But it was the peanut butter and chocolate of the smartphone and wearable.
Exactly right. Yeah. See, the Oreo is not as good unless you dip it in peanut butter.
I'll tell you this much. I'm really compelled to try that Gear 2 out, mainly because, hey, if I want to go run, I don't have to worry about the fact that I have this big Note 3 that I don't want to run with. I could just take the Gear 2 and that's it.
But there's not a big wart on the strap anymore.
Yeah, but and I have held all the Gears as have you, Jaime and Tony, and I've dealt with all of them, and I was however I felt about them in relation to the original Gear, whatever, the Gear Fit I was pretty excited about, but now, and not just because they're new, but the new Android Wear products seem eminently more compelling.
I'm drooling over that Moto 360.
Yeah, we all are. We talked about that for 20 minutes before you came on the air.
Drooling.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which is...
Totally.
Yeah. So, it's a really, really good question. I am going to be very interested to see what happens with the Gear lineup after this. But I think you're right. I think it was Taylor who said that Samsung's scale is such that it doesn't really have to worry about making a decision. It can kind of just do everything and see what succeeds and what fails.
See what sticks.
Yeah. We got to come up with a better way to put that, because I'm so tired of the spaghetti on the wall thing. There's got to be another way to do that. We got to talk to some old ladies who know old
fire
expressions.
hose the market.
Yeah, there you go. That's nice. That's nice. Did you just make that up, or did you steal that?
No, I've used it for years.
Oh,
who wants to drink from the fire hose?
Do you want to?
UHF? Anyone?
Is your piece of mail that you've selected, Taylor? Is it about this topic, or does it take us somewhere else?
It is, and it's perfect for me, and mainly due to my podcast that I uploaded yesterday morning.
Wow.
It's very, very relevant to all of that and what we were just talking about.
This guy's not satisfied with one plug. He's just going to plug his show the whole
Hey,
podcast.
I didn't even say the name.
Seriously.
So.
By all means, Taylor, go
Tell
ahead.
us, Taylor Martin of the Untethered podcast.
This one is from someone that I'm just going to slaughter the name so hard. Chingiz?
Yeah, that's the one that
Saidov?
I had selected, and you're stealing from me. Okay.
Oh,
It was not starred, so thank you.
It was, in fact, starred. I
is
just took the
starred.
star off now that you've got your hands all over it. But okay.
Shame on you, Taylor. It is starred. Come on, man.
I just started.
Fight,
It was not starred.
Chingiz Saidov.
Let's talk about how great your system is, Michael.
My system's awesome. Go ahead.
Dear Pocketnow, I enjoy reading, listening, and watching all of your content at all times of the day. Thank you very much. Anyway, do you think that Android Wear is the future to home automation, since guys like Nest, now owned by Google, can optimize their apps for wearables? Greetings from Canada. I just want to say that if you watched the promotional video, so not the developer video, there were two videos released by Google. One was a promotional kind of happy, get really excited about this video. The very end, this girl is riding her bike with her two friends, and she says, "Okay, Google, open the garage." Mm-hmm. And her garage door pops open.
And then her friends look at her really quizzically, and she's like, "What? What? You guys
can't do this?"
Yeah. Like, what?
My Moto X is going crazy. I'm going to have to turn it off.
Okay, Google, get me dinner.
Yeah, so
Me a sandwich.
Google is very much invested in this home automation thing. That's why it bought Nest. Obviously, why else would it buy a Nest? To gather information about how warm you want your house? Yeah, probably a little bit, but I think it's more so the ability to control your home through Google Now, obviously. So, yes, if you want the short of my answer, yeah, I think that's exactly what this is for. Voice control for different things throughout your house. Say, okay, Google, turn on the lights in my bedroom. And they turn on. So Google doesn't have any of that available, though. It's not like Google has Wemo lights or Philips Hue lights or anything like that, but there's no reason to believe that they couldn't integrate, because our guest that we had on the podcast, his name is Jason Cipriani. He has reviewed what's called Revolve, which is a cross-platform, so cross-home automation platform hub. It works with Philips Hue. It works with Wemo, Belkin's Wemo. It works with all kinds of different stuff to bring it all into one controllable app and one controllable module. So rather than having, like, if you have multiple types of home automation, you would have to use different apps for every single thing. So Revolve brings it all into one place. So if Google could integrate Google Now with Revolve, there's no reason to believe that something like that would be very difficult to pull off.
This is all very true, but I think that the wearables part is a minor component of that. Google making this grand home automation hub, just integrating smartphones would accomplish a lot of the same things. I think wearables could be an important part of that, but I don't think it's necessarily key to the movement towards connected home.
Maybe not, but being able to trigger most of that from your watch without having to pull out your phone, I think
definitely makes it more accessible. Yeah.
I have an auxiliary question to your question, though, and this is for you three guys on this podcast.
Yeah.
What will that do to oh gosh, I can't even think of what Motorola calls it now. Where it's listening all the time. What is it called?
Touchless control?
Touchless control. So they put all this time and effort into building this custom chipset that listens to your voice, but now if you have touchless control and a watch, I mean, you're going to obviously just have to turn touchless control off, but does that mean they stop developing it?
No, I don't think so. But all of this is so up in the air because Motorola's ownership change.
Okay, one question.
Fuzzies up the whole thing. It's so freaking irritating because I feel like the 360 is another example of what the best of what Motorola could do under Google's auspices. Am I saying that right?
Was it under Google, though?
Huh?
Michael? I think it was help from Google, maybe financially. But, Michael,
what?
Can we stop the FUD?
No, we can't.
FUD is bad.
This is a place for FUD. No, but it's not necessarily like I'm sitting here saying, like, we've seen the best and now it's all downhill from here. I'm just saying it's uncertain, and there's so much time that we have to wait to find out if... I'm very frustrated. I'm going to stop the FUD.
Uncertain is the second word in FUD.
I think that if anything,
just say it.
Well
very,
played.
very true. If anything, Google's ownership of Motorola has shown us that the company is able to keep functioning and delivering really great products, improving on its past stuff, without or regardless of who might be in control of the purse strings. The Moto X, we heralded this as the great big thing to happen now that Google is influencing Motorola. And then months later, we hear, no, Google had nothing to do with the Moto X.
Well, they very little, yeah.
We're not giving Motorola enough credit, maybe.
Well, I think you're right.
Well, okay, so did Google not have anything to do with it, or did Dennis Woodside not have anything to do with it?
No, it's Google. No, because there have been all these revelations. Actually, The Information has a great story about this, which has prompted me to subscribe to The Information.
I was going to say, we need to get a subscription for the site, man.
Yeah, we really do. And the point is, the story seems to be that Motorola wanted to work with all these different Google departments to make the most epic smartphone they could ever make. And Google was basically like, no, we can't let you have access to all this stuff because then it'll anger our other partners. So Google was always one foot out the door with this thing. So I think you're right, Stephen. I hadn't thought about it that way, but I think we haven't been giving Motorola enough credit as a standalone entity. And maybe
I give Motorola tons of credit. Just saying.
I'm going to end the podcast right there.
We're done.
Who I haven't heard talk in a while? Jaime. What does Jaime have to say that maybe could shed some light on this situation?
I don't know. Is that you guys are concerned? Let me try to understand this. So you guys are concerned over how this Moto 360 is going to work with the Moto X, or you're concerned about the fact that
how wearables
might ruin
into the future of home automation?
No, I know the whole home automation thing. I'm trying to understand this transition into the Moto X.
There hasn't been one. It wasn't a good trend. We're trying to get away from that. Yeah. What do you think about the home automation angle? And then we'll move on.
Probably smartwatches won't be powerful enough to do it initially, at least without a smartphone. But why not? I mean,
powerful enough. They just need to, relay their voice commands to whatever's in your house or your thermostat or whatever the hub becomes. They're just going to be conduits to your voice.
Yeah. Obviously, but we know these things aren't fully accurate right now. But, I think that is the future. I mean, why there will be a time where you won't have to flip the switch. You'll just have to tell your watch to do it. And then again, whenever your wife's asleep and you don't want to wake her up, you'll just flip the switch. So, yeah, there will be needs for automation eventually. But it's one of those things that, if you guys remember at Google I.O. like 3 years ago, they showed us like these different Android-powered lamps and Android-powered switches and a lot of servos, and none of these things have been released. So the work has been there for years. The problem is, I guess they haven't figured out the right sauce to make these things work the way they want them to.
They didn't have a proper vehicle, but now, once I have my Moto 360, I can look at my wrist and say, "Okay, Google, find a television show that I really want." Find a television show that I like.
The first thing I'm going to do is be like, "Okay, Google, can I ask you a different command that's not okay, Google, please?"
Sup, Google?
Yeah.
Actually, you can ask the Moto X what's up.
Hey, watch.
You can.
Yeah.
Hey,
It's
watch.
really annoying.
Yeah, it is.
Oh, hey, watch. Can you turn on the lights?
I would like to move on here, unless we have another thought on this. And
No, but I'm going to try to steal your other.
you can try and do a transition.
Of course you are.
Yeah. What?
No, I'm just going to try to steal your
email.
future questions.
Yeah.
Oh, all right. You don't actually have one that you're in the midst of stealing right now.
No, just trying to kill your segue.
Thank you.
Swiper, no swiping.
This one is from Noah. It's not a question, it's a suggestion. You guys should do a Back to the Future type of thing, like set it up like episode 1 or relaunch episode 1 for episode 88. I think that would be super cool. Thanks. Well, Noah, I'm sorry we didn't do that.
No hoverboards?
No hoverboards.
Oh, I get it.
Yeah, no DeLoreans. Although I did think about that. I thought that 88 is always like a cool digit, because not just because it's the crucial threshold for time travel when you're traveling in a car, but also because it's the highest value that LCD or that LED indicators display when they're inactive.
Oh, yeah, 7 segs.
Yeah. So that always confused me as a kid. I was like, does that mean the cable box only goes up to 88? Like, I've seen it say 91. Like, I don't know, I'm so confused. Anyway, Noah, thank you. Good suggestion. Wish I'd read it before we started the show.
So this would be a crazy 88s Kill Bill style podcast is the other option.
I know. Someone else take us to another piece of mail. I think we've kind of exhausted the wearable stuff, haven't we?
I think we have.
Yeah.
We have a lot of questions for Black Phone.
We do. We should move into that because Jaime, you were the one who explained that to us on camera.
Okay, so one of these questions, I don't have the name of this person. It's just their email. So it's just Rafael.
No, it's Frank Reed.
Oh, Frank Reed. Okay.
Frank Reed from New York City.
Read from the bottom up.
Sorry, guys.
No problem.
Hi, Pocketnow team. With security all the current rage, just ignore all the info we put on our social media for now. Do you think a device like the Black Phone has a change gain tractor? I ordered one because I like the idea of controlling exactly what info apps can access. Thanks for all the great content. Live long and prosper. Oh, God.
Thank you, Frank. Peace and long life to you, friend.
That was a good one. And then there's this other question from Vivek Sharam at the bottom that's also pertaining to Black Phone. And it's like, hey, Pocketnow team, recently a newer version of the Black Phone was released, which is completely based on user privacy and security. Do you think that other OEMs should also release such type of smartphones as part of a major flagship like Samsung Galaxy S5 Secure? Just fake the name. Love the podcast and discussion. Thank you. Okay, so I had the funniest experience with the Black Phone. If you watch the bloopers, you'll notice that, for example, one of the things that I say is like, "Can I turn it on? Can I actually use it?" The phone wasn't usable when we were there, and all we could do was really sell a concept. They explained the reason why they had this like silver, I forget the name of the company. what's the name of this security company? And their whole package of services costs $1,500. But if you buy a black phone, you get them included with the black phone for 2 years.
Silent Circle is the name.
Silent Circle, yeah. Exactly. So instead of paying $1,500 for the Silent Circle services, what you do is you buy a black phone.
Fast.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's a tricky thing to say. Yeah, go ahead.
So the thing is, and I guess the answer would be, does the black phone have traction? If you need Silent Circle services, then yes, sure.
But are there enough people that need it?
Well, there are a lot of companies that use Silent Circle. I know that, for example, I used to work for UPS and they used it.
Really?
And yeah, in certain aspects, mostly financial, for financial calls and certain things, they would use Silent Circle services. But then again, this is a Fortune 500 company. So we go back to, and this was funny. I mean, you would go to the Samsung booth and you would go to ZTE or anywhere, and no booth was as full as the black phone booth. It was packed. I mean, We had to go there 3 times to be able to get that video because it was just packed to the gills.
There's a ton of press on this. Like PC Mag gave them a Best of MWC award.
But I want to know how, if they weren't really able to operate the phone. So they had a pre-production phone there. We couldn't even use it. I mean, I couldn't really test what the point was with this phone. So again, if you depend on Silent Circle services, then yes, buy a black phone. If you want to give them a try and not have to pay for them, just buy for the same money you'll buy an unlocked phone, then yeah. Now, is this phone going to be a great solution for, hey, do you want a phone with a great camera or a phone with a great display or a phone with a great anything? I can't tell you. We weren't able to test the phone. So it's hard for me to tell you, and especially with the fact that you could just hire a VPN and get a lot of these services. But again, they're not Silent Circle services. So I guess the point is, does the black phone have a future? It could. I just don't know if there is really a market that's broad enough in the consumer market for the black phone. I mean, I do see people like UPS buying black phones for their managers, just like they bought Blackberries for their managers, like they bought me a Blackberry at the time. But I don't see that the average human being needs a black phone. That's just my point.
Stephen, what do you think?
I've been thinking about this a lot, because we got another question from a guy named Jonathan Michael, who asked something much along the same lines about black phone. He also asked about VPNs and just privacy in general. Mm-hmm. I'm really not feeling that this new wave of riding off of last year's revelations of all the NSA stuff, these new phones and products that are coming out, are going to change much. You always could do really, really good privacy if you had it in your mind to do it. And that means making a lot of sacrifices. Every time you trust a company providing a service like this, whether it's a VPN, whether it's a company selling you your phone, that's someone who very well could, betray your interest to some security firm. Yeah, if you do this yourself, if you manage your own collection of certificates, if you encrypt everything before it leaves your phone in the first place, and you're the only one controlling these keys, yes, it can be very, very, very safe. No one does that, though, because it's a huge pain in the ass. And every time a company comes along looking to automate the process and make it more accessible, it makes it a lot more attractive. It gets press like this, but you're usually giving up a bit of security in the process by streamlining it, by skipping over important steps. And so it's always going to be a trade-off. And I think one of these questions, the guy wrote to tell us, just ignore all the stuff you're putting on social media. I don't think we can, because we're headed in a direction where we're voluntarily giving up more and more data about ourselves. And I don't think we can pretend that just certain things are worth keeping private. It's a complicated question about where disclosure is heading about all of our lives. Wearable gadgets leaking more and more information about us into the cloud that's going to be out there for companies to use. Who knows how? None of the products I'm hearing about now sound like graceful, bulletproof solutions. And are they maybe better than nothing? Sure, but I don't think the answer to I want to be able to do everything I can with smartphones today, while also having all of my privacy interests listened to, I don't think that's coming anytime soon.
There's this funny, and I'm sorry to bring this up, guys, but there's this funny Bible reference that's like, you want to keep something a secret? Don't share it. Your head's not going to explode.
It says that's verbatim from the Bible.
Wait,
verbatim from the book.
I missed the exploding head passing. Is that Revelations?
That's verbatim from the book of Sirach. It's like, if you want to keep a secret, don't share it. Your head is not going to explode.
Yeah, what is it? 3 people can keep a secret if 2 of them are dead. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's, yeah. I don't know. I get a little burned out on the secrecy thing because the primary thing fueling a lot of these privacy discussions has been the NSA revelations and such, and the Black Phone is pointedly not an NSA-proof phone. There is no such thing.
There's no such thing. Exactly.
So the desire for heightened privacy is understandable, but if you're looking at these things to try and be underground somehow, to avoid the eyes of governments and entities with a lot of power.
Even if companies are going out of their way to avoid NSA level spying, there's the legitimized wiretap stuff, laws like, I don't know how to pronounce, Cayella in the U.S., where the police might have an actual interest in hearing someone's calls. They get warrants. It's the right way to do things. And the companies making the phones and the carriers have to give them this sort of access. So there's always going to be a backdoor in there. And they're supposed to be. I mean,
right.
It's just whether they're being abused or not is the question.
Yeah.
Yeah, and there are still people. Like, Silent Circle is people. They are still people. If Silent Circle gets a warrant from the United States government asking for access to somebody's phone, you guys think Silent Circle is going to say no?
Yeah, no, I don't know, but I don't think so. I am interested in moving on from this because I feel like this could be an entire podcast that we could do and we won't. And as I'm shuffling through some of these old emails, I'm reminded that we always need to remind folks to please keep them brief, and thank you those of you who do. But also, it is so difficult to not read so many of these because I want to read every piece of mail we get, but so many of them are what phone should I buy emails, and it's just so difficult to answer those in a podcast where we don't have you here, we can't ask you questions, and we don't really know you. So it's such a personal decision that we kind of stay away from recommending phones in either or purchases. So if you send one of those,
Pocketnow Live kind of thing.
It is. It's a Pocketnow Live kind of thing. It's something that we could actually. I've been thinking for a long time about just doing a show entirely based on that concept because there are so many people who ask those questions everywhere, and I also don't answer them on Twitter, by the way, just for the same reasons. And so we're very sorry if you wrote in and wanted an answer to one of those, but unless it's broadly applicable to our audience, we're not going to answer those. Is Taylor back yet?
Yeah, I was going to say if you ask me on Twitter what phone you should buy, this or that, all I'm going to do is answer with my choice, and I'll say why, but I'm not going to answer which one you should buy.
Yeah, the only time that I'm able to, because the character limit makes it impossible. It's one of those. Twitter's just not built for that, and I would not only would I encourage you not to ask me those questions, but if I ever answer them with anything that doesn't have a qualifier on it, I would encourage you to dismiss my answer as I'm probably drunk.
No, yeah, and all that being said, I mean, think about it, guys. We do so many comparison videos. We do so many reviews. That's really the point of these things. We try to help people decide what to buy. So, sometimes when I get these questions, I try not to respond because, again, I don't know the person that's asking the question, and my opinion is biased. So we try to be as unbiased as we can in our reviews, but then again, that doesn't mean that at the end of the day, we don't end up choosing a specific phone.
Or two.
And it's even if I could recommend recommend the Sony Xperia Z2 as much as I want, but then again, I'm going to have to return the phone, so yeah, hey, there goes my daily driver.
I want to break up the monotony of the question avalanche for a minute with an email with an announcement, which I promised to read on the air, but this was from February 3rd, and we haven't read it on the air yet, so I'm going to do it. And then we'll get to another question from Stephen. Are you on deck? I think you are.
Yeah, okay.
You be ready. This comes from Jimmy Westenberg, who says he's a longtime listener of the podcast. He reads our site every day, and he says, after a short while of engulfing my life in mobile release news, I decided to do something about it. Thanks to you guys, I've begun applying to different mobile blogs, specifically Android. I quickly became an intern at androidguys.com, and I've now been hired as a full-time writer.
Hey,
awesome.
Congratulations.
A couple months into it, I've absolutely found my passion in life and credit it to all you guys. So thank you.
Send my best to
Stephen,
Scott.
Jaime, Adam, Taylor, and most of all, Michael. Oh, thank you. At least, if you take anything at all away from your career, guys, at least know that you've made somebody's life a hell of a lot better. That is awesome. If you care to
That's very awesome.
And Jimmy didn't ask for the plug, but if you want to go check out his work, he's at androidguys.com/author/Jimmy-Westenberg, Westenberg. And that's awesome, Jimmy. Thank you. Congratulations, man. That's great news.
Have you met Scott from Android Guys?
I don't know if I have or not. Taylor knows everybody, so he's probably
such a cool dude. Such a cool dude. He's a really great guy. Hopefully, we could have him on the VIP sometime.
Oh, that would be great. Yeah. Well, once again, Jimmy, thank you. That warms our hearts. It's good. I'm glad we finally got to read that on the air. That's taken too long. Well, after that brief respite, it's time to answer a question or two. Stephen.
Mm-hmm. Well, here's one that when I was looking at the mailbox last night, it seemed like a very interesting question, and I really didn't consider the length of it at the time. It's a bit verbose, but if I can give you guys the gist of it, I think that will suffice. So this is from Guy Vaz, here it is. I'm like, hi, I'm here. If I just read the email instead of trying to figure out the name from the email address, it is Guilherme from Brazil.
Yes.
He's writing to us about dual SIM smartphones. So in Brazil, apparently, everything's very expensive to begin with. You can pay $1,500 for an iPhone 5S, $350 US a month just on your wireless bill then. So to combat this, a lot of people are using these dual SIM phones. So he writes, here, most people can't afford paying for a high-end smartphone with a good carrier plan. What they used to do is they bought 2 or 3 separate phones to use with lower plans from multiple carriers, ones that would give you free calls or text, something around the range of $10 a month for each. Now with the dual SIM phones, instead of carrying around multiple dumb phones, they're carrying around the SIMs and popping them in. Some people are even having phones supporting, 10 SIMs at once. That sounds crazy and probably uses some aftermarket adapters there, but more power to you.
I'm picturing like power strips like plugged in and like shoved in pockets, you know?
That's insane. But what he noticed is that this kind of behavior is something people from the higher classes who can afford to pay those $300 bills for data see as reprehensible. Like everyone should just buy one phone, choose your carrier, pay a lot of money to use that single phone, not taking advantage of all these lower priced plans you can combine with these dual SIM devices and get something just as good for a lot less money. He wants to know what we think about that. Do you think that people in the countries who are using multiple carriers are doing things right? If there's, something just unfathomable about spreading your money between multiple carriers like that, and if the right thing to do is somehow sticking with one. And also, do we think that OEMs, especially the bigger companies, are going to start making higher-end dual SIM phones? Which is a good question, because a lot of the times these dual SIM devices are targeted for developing markets and aren't always the company's top-of-the-line stuff. So a lot of questions in here, but dual SIM in general, what do we think about all this? Yeah, please.
Yeah, you're the one with the expertise.
Plugged in here.
Yeah, I live in an emerging market. And, it's interesting. Have you guys ever heard of the Samsung Galaxy Duos?
Yeah, they pop on the radar.
Yeah, it looks like an S3, but it's got dual SIMs, and it's really popular here. Terrible display, but it looks like an S3, and it is really popular here. And dual SIMs are very common in my country, and they are because of that specific point. In my case, I'm able to have more than one phone. But yeah, like for example, one of my carriers gives me great 3G speeds. I'm talking HSPA plus quality. But then I don't get free phone calls. And then the other one gives me almost free phone calls. It's like, for example, it costs me the same thing to call somebody in the United States than to call somebody internally in the country.
Wow.
So, yeah, it's like for me, calling any of you guys in the U.S. costs me the same thing as calling anybody here.
Who needs Skype?
Seriously. Again, I carry two phones because at some point and you guys are probably going to laugh at the phone bills here, but I was paying between $130 and $140 in my smartphone subsidy plan, where I would get a smartphone, and that's how much I used to pay here. And I just learned about this whole prepaid thing. And the thing about prepaid in our countries is that people here are very bad when it comes to credit. So, even if there are credit services here, they are trying to boost prepaid as hard as they can because they want the money in advance. That's the name of the game now. Prepaid has no risk for anybody. And so, therefore, they're giving people a lot of benefits. Like one of my carriers, again, gives you calls to the United States, and the other one gives you great data. So, again, I carry two phones because I can, but most people look for dual SIM phones because it is practical. But, just making that move of going from my postpaid plan to prepaid, I am now just paying $50 for both phone lines, coming from $140. So it is a big difference. Obviously, in the United States, I'm sure it's different. I don't know about you guys.
I mean,
like for example, why are you Captain Two Phones?
Yeah, well, I carry two phones because I like diversity and user experience, and there are things I can get on Windows Phone and Android that I can't get on the other phone in either case. So I like switching it up a lot. That's why I carry two phones. It's not a network consideration for me because, for me, my carrier covers my home city brilliantly. So
I still think it's very important what you just mentioned there is you like to have choice with your phone, and I think that goes back to this question about whether or not using multiple SIMs should be frowned upon. Absolutely not. With smartphones, we're always about finding new ways to give ourselves choices. Even if you're on Android or something and you're plugged into Google's ecosystem, you might use Gmail for your email, but you might use BBM for your messaging. You don't have to go all in one boat. So I don't think there's anything to feel like less of a smartphone user because you're using multiple SIMs. It's just taking advantage of all the options out there.
Right. That was my initial reaction to this question. Like I couldn't find the question again. I went back and I tried to find the question and I couldn't.
It's from the 17th.
Yeah. No. I mean within the email I couldn't find the question. There's a lot in there. But anytime you have a group of people, whether they're hoity-toity rich folks or even, not that, any group of people that's going to sit there and hate on you because you've made a choice that makes your life better. I not only am not concerned with what they think, but I'm not concerned with ever listening to them again. It's
as a wise man once said, haters are going to hate.
Haters will hate. Yes, I think the Bible said that right next to the exploding head passage.
Haters. It had haters though. It was HATAS.
That's right.
Haters gonna hate.
Dem haters though. So I don't think that's even worth thinking about. I think if you have a phone that has 20 SIM card slots and a bunch of Christmas tree lights sticking out the side, and that works for you, then freaking go for it. That's my opinion on this.
What about the other side? Are we going to see?
What?
I just had this vision of Exhibit walking up to you with your new phone with all those lights.
Hey, dog.
I don't think Exhibit would hate on that.
I know you like Sims, so I put a Sim in your Sim.
Put a Sim in your Sim so you can sim.
You're like, it's got 20 Sims and it's got headlights and everything, and all I could think of was Pimp My Ride.
Yeah. Oh, man. Well, what were you going to say was the flip side of that, Stephen, before we move on?
The fact that we're even seeing smartphones supporting dual SIMs from major manufacturers, even if they're not yet the really, really high-end phones that is looking for, legitimizes them. This is not not shoving some adapter in under your battery. Maybe you're going for 10, but it's on the up and up.
And I understand that this is more prevalent in developing countries where you have multiple carriers servicing different areas and you want the same phone. Like, we've actually talked about this increasingly on the show, which is interesting. But if this were the case in the United States, like if I could get a dual SIM phone here that delivered everything I needed, and the SIM slots and the bands that the phone supported were compatible with, say, whatever, Verizon and AT&T or T-Mobile and Sprint, whatever coverage mix I would need, you better believe I'd snap that up in a hot second.
Yeah.
I mean, that's why I carry, I carry two phones as well.
You do it for coverage.
I do it for coverage and for the diversity.
Okay.
So, for you, I use Android and iOS every single day, and I have T-Mobile, AT&T, and Verizon. I'm going to cancel AT&T probably within the next month because I don't need three, but I carry T-Mobile as my unlimited data source, but when I drive outside the city, it's nothing for an hour drive.
Yeah.
I mean, I have edge for an hour, and then Verizon is LTE pretty much everywhere. So, yes, I could just use Verizon, but I like having the diversity, so I don't want two of the same carrier. So I branch out, get some unlimited data while I'm at it.
I'm in a similar boat to Taylor. I have T-Mobile for my smartphone. It gets data, but the coverage is lousy, so I have a Verizon backup dumb phone just for voice, because I know I'm always going to get reception.
You got a Verizon dumb phone?
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Are those still existent?
Yeah.
Oh my God.
I want to do a feature on dumb phones, by the way. Okay.
Nokia 3350i.
Oh, wow. You really mean it. You're not just messing around.
Dumb. No camera, baby.
Wow.
I was just doing some digging, and I found some dual SIM adapters to turn.
Picture. Yeah, so like
The 10 SIM one?
So you stick a SIM into the SIM card slot, and it has a ribbon cable that comes out.
That
looks like a phone with braids, man.
Yeah, it looks like something that's just begging to catch on fire, like in a Christmas Story when he plugs into the thing and the sparks fly.
This one's the best, the iPhone, with it just sticking out of the side.
Gross.
Yeah,
Because there's nowhere else to put it.
I remember that. Yeah, the Gavi SIM. Yeah,
Put a case on it.
Jesus. So, all right. So let's move on from that. Thank you for that detailed question. That was cool. We got a little more mileage out of that than I expected. I wanted to move on. I don't know, Taylor, if you've got one ready or not, but
I do, but I have one other funny picture here because why not?
Well, you share it, and then we'll piss off the listeners even more. And
So we need a podcast.
While you guys are sharing those,
the email I have is from Gary Holly. Thank you, Michael. I did have something prepared.
Oh,
this is from February 19th. Okay. Yes, it is a question. It's got a little backstory, but it's also question. So, longtime listener, Pocketnow Weekly was the first podcast I listened to. Now I'm addicted to them, at least tech ones anyway. Love hearing Michael and Taylor with random guests. Need more Joe and Jaime. Sorry, Steven. Thanks for listening, though.
and by the way, Stephen Shank, F you.
So, inspired me to write my blog again. Thanks. Now on to the reason I write. This has come up on the podcast before, the abuse of the flagship name with the Mini attached to it. While I wasn't surprised the G2 Mini was watered down, I still had hope that even then I didn't expect it to be that bad. Do you guys expect this to change in 2014 with the Sony compact model out at the insane price of the Moto G and the insane price of the Moto G that even mini models aren't even close to? Or do you think Samsung, LG, and others will continue this quest of who can put the worst hardware in a phone with a flagship name? Thanks, Gary. I just liked that question, the way you ended it.
Yeah, I like
so,
that question
Michael,
too.
I picked this because you've had experience with the Z1 Compact.
Yeah.
I've had a little hands-on with it, and it was pretty nice in my experience, but I can't really speak to its quality. What do you think, sir?
So I think if Sony makes a splash with the Z1 Compact, which I don't know if that is happening, frankly, outside of this country because we don't get much from Sony here. If Sony's able to make a splash, I think that will make other manufacturers sit up and take notice. Also, if HTC is able to do it with the new version of their Mini, whatever they do with the M8 Mini, that's going to shine a brighter spotlight on this issue. But really, ultimately, what it's going to take for high-end mini phones for this trend to stop is for consumers to revolt and for the return rates on these things to go sky high because they bring home a Galaxy S14 Mini, and it's like, oh wow, this is awesome. Oh wait, what? It doesn't have the holographic array and the built-in laser pointer that the big one does? Well, then screw this. I'm bringing this back.
I don't think they care, though. I did my darndest to convince a friend of mine not to buy the Galaxy S4 Mini for his new smartphone. And no, he bought it. It's fine with it. He doesn't need all the features of the 4 itself. And just cared about the size.
Is that the question then? Like, do these companies know something about the science of buying that we do not? Where people who are shopping for a Mini are more than happy to sacrifice specs and performance as long as they get a smaller phone.
That's not my problem, though.
What is?
I don't care what the answer to the problem. I don't care if that's the answer to the question. My problem with miniature smartphones is the fact that they're sold as something that they're not.
Is that true?
It is true.
Can you show me a retail placard that says all the power of the Galaxy S4 in a smaller package? It is implied.
It is implied.
It is implied.
And if the point is, if the Galaxy S4 Mini were not called the Galaxy S4 Mini, but maybe the Galaxy,
soap dish or whatever.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. Then
They
the
wouldn't
Galaxy
move at
Astro,
all.
they wouldn't move at all. You're right. It is trading on the brand name recognition of the more powerful device. I agree.
right?
And I've said
And
the same thing.
Galaxy S is supposed to mean high end, the best they have to offer, and
No,
Galaxy
no mo.
S4 Mini.
On the flip side,
not
by doing
anymore.
this for years, have they redefined our expectations for Mini? At this point now, do we expect that it's going to be something less than
That-
the original, not just
It's
smaller?
an important question.
It is an important
But
question.
should we?
No,
I guess like for example, a company that I forgive with that mini moniker is HTC because, for example, you get boom sound on the One Mini just like you get on the normal.
Desires have boom
You know
sound.
what you also get? You get a Snapdragon
The new
400
ones.
that's poorly optimized and it doesn't run right. Like it's a sucky little phone, I think.
All right. I wrote an editorial, naturally, called HTC Don't Cut Corners with the One Mini this year.
Yeah.
And that was actually your idea, Jaime.
Yeah.
So I'm just going to leave that and drop the mic and walk away.
Jaime, don't
Toss the grenade,
bring
and
your
walk.
bullshit up in here.
That wasn't my idea, was
I
it?
think that was mine.
It may have been.
Sounds like something I'd say.
Yeah, because I've sent like a million ideas to Tony in the past like 3 weeks and he hasn't used any.
So
I thought it was yours, but maybe it was Steven's.
I think I will answer
Pick
this.
up the microphone. Pick up the microphone.
Take that.
I need to toss that grenade back.
Yeah, put the pen back in hurriedly. So Gary, it seems to me that none of us on the air here are terribly optimistic at this model changing anytime soon.
While we're on the subject, though, about these mini phones, I wanted to mention this because I'm not sure I'm going to write about this, but saw it in the feeds today. The one problem with the mini devices is that they're not living up to the specs of the full-size ones. I think this other trend we're seeing, which he didn't mention in this email here, is that mini isn't really meaning mini that much anymore.
Yeah, true.
Whoa.
I mean, the G2 mini, how big was that?
And that's still a sore
But
spot for us.
The worst one here,
Those
there's
renders.
apparently going to be an Oppo N1 mini that has a 5-inch display.
Eat my shorts.
Mini
What?
in not even name only.
So what? How big is the other one? 7 inches or what?
Well, it's 5.9. It's the full-size
I'm
N1.
going to start
have
calling these
something-
Minos and minis in name only. I like that.
It's the nano phone.
Yeah. No, that'll be the next thing, right? We're just like, no, we really mean it this time. Now it's going to be the G2 Nano. Yeah.
Micro, Pico.
Somebody's just gonna, like we gotta class up the joint a little. Like let's call it like the HTC One Svelte.
And then we get the Micro Machine guide to introduce them. You remember the
Yeah. It doesn't say micro machine. It's not the real thing.
I have something that's completely, totally off topic, but it's relevant to something we were talking about earlier.
It sounds like something we definitely have time for.
Acceptable.
We do, because we're going to make time for this.
What?
I'm going to read the headlines to you, or the headline. Android Wear announcements today have Pebble founder excited. Yeah, this comes from
Excited
Android
or
Central.
something?
What?
No, Pebble officially welcomes Google and partners to the smartwatch market.
Hey.
The official quote from Eric Mijkowski, who is the founder and CEO of Pebble. We're excited about today's news from our friends at Google. When we started working on wearables 6 years ago, there were few players in the space and a lot of skeptics. It's exciting to see this market grow so quickly, enabling more interesting use cases and keeping all of us laser focused on creating the very best user experiences we can.
yeah.
Bam.
Yeah.
This is good.
He welcomes competition.
Yes,
Guys,
This sounds like a letter Atari would write to Nintendo.
Exactly.
With the NES.
Right.
No, yeah,
It's like
this
the
is like
letter
the red letter that Palm wrote about Apple. Like, yeah.
Right. No.
No,
It's
it
like
is.
the letter that Steve Jobs posted when, hey, IBM, welcome, finally, to the
that.
personal
Yeah.
computer in 1984.
Yeah, this is not like we're excited. This is
No, they're not,
Now it's time
man.
for a press release.
It's time for a
they're-
challenge.
We swear we're not crying and having a breakdown.
Right.
Well, hey, that's the answer you wanted. You were looking for some word from Miriam. That's what you were asking for, Michael. So get off.
Shoot! Thank you for bringing it. I'm just saying, like, hey, this is what we should have expected.
I know, but I found what you were looking for.
Good on you.
Yeah. That's acceptable.
Good, Bono.
You know what?
Good
I hate your
Bono.
face.
Hate your face.
I'm freaking back the 2013 Hate You, Michael.
I got a couple fun things in here. While we're talking about Sony, while we were touching on that, this is from John Luck from February 3rd. who says, "Hello, Pocketnow team. I've been looking at Sony phones lately because I love their design and their waterproofing, but I looked at the camera and I took some sample shots at the store, and they weren't that great. I also noticed,
phone, though?
Yeah, it's tough. I also noticed that in order to use the 20.7 megapixels, you need to use 4:3 and not 16:9, which I know for me and many other people is a pretty big deal breaker. Amen, brother. Do you think that Sony will improve their camera to be as good as their regular cameras and let you use the full resolution in 16:9? Thanks. Love the podcast. Keep up the great work, John Luck." John,
Is there
awesome
Is there
question.
any phone? Is there any phone that uses like the full resolution at
In
16 by 9?
No, because they have to crop it.
Hold on,
'cause
4:3 presumably is full resolution, right?
4:3
Yeah.
is, but that's because the sensor's a
Right.
square, right?
Remember when Nokia
Yeah.
had that great graphic when for the Pure View where it showed
I mean,
cropping?
photos have been 4:3 ever since they were invented, right?
No, there was a whole period and they were one by one for a long time. That's why we have Instagram now to like recall the great times of the 70s.
Right.
But no. So I'm with John completely because I remember talking to Taylor when I got the Galaxy S4 last summer as a review unit. I was like, "Hey man, what is the deal with this cropping?" And actually, Taylor was the one who explained to me about sensor shape.
Oh.
What?
Yeah.
Steven's so
I'm
mad.
unconcerned by the aspect ratio thing. I'm more the image quality. I think is worth talking about.
All right, we can talk about image quality in a second, but I am glad to know that I'm not the only one out there who prefers his photos in 16:9. I think 4:3
not by any
is
means.
so
I hate 4:3
gross.
photos.
Yeah,
I prefer 4:3. Gives you more to crop from then.
Okay, if
Good
you're
for
shooting
you.
raw and looking for post-processing, yes, 4:3 is better.
I
never
prefer 4:3.
I never share pictures as taken from my smartphone camera. I'm always cropping them down significantly.
Wow.
So
Look at you artiste. Who knew?
You Lumia 1020.
Deal with it.
So, John, you did not provide us with what phone he was using at the store.
20.7 doesn't have to be the Z1.
So it has to be the Z1 or the Z1S or the Z1 Compact, but they weren't on shelves at February 3rd, I don't think. Or maybe they were.
Z1's been around for a while.
Yeah, so the question becomes, is it the Z1 or the Z1S? The Z1S, when I used it in my testing briefly before I destroyed it, I was very pleased with its camera performance, especially coming from experiences with older Sony phones that had cameras that were really quite crappy with their overprocessing, a lot of noise, a lot of junk and garbage. But I would say, John, if you're looking at either the Z1S or the Z1 Compact, unless you were a real stickler for noisy, non-noisy shots, I would feel pretty comfortable about recommending those because Sony's done a lot of great work to clear that up.
We saw those comparisons showing the Z1 and Z2 shots, and it was a world of difference between the two.
Yeah.
If you can wait for the Z2, by all means, man.
Yeah, that's a good point too. But no, I mean, even the Compact, I would carry the Compact as my daily driver based on the camera.
But why are you guys complaining? I mean, people using the HTC One with 4 megapixels at 4:3 don't complain.
Because the One brought something else to the game. It brought excellent low light performance that when it was released, you could only find on a Lumia. So that's why the One got a pass on that.
Listen, guys. So here's the thing: you have 20 megapixels with the 4:3, and then it crops down to 18 megapixels. Hey, I'm using 8 megapixels on the 5S, and they're great. So, I mean, why do I want those 2,000 extra megapixels? I mean, just live with the 16:9. You'll get photos that are twice as big as the iPhones and with less detail anyway. So what's the problem?
My problem,
Jaime Rivera says, John, just quit your whining
pretty
and
much.
buy a Sony phone.
My thing is not necessarily just with Sony; it's with camera branding altogether. I have problems with branding. Obviously.
Good for you. Did you write a letter into the podcast talking about that?
Yes.
Oh.
No, it's just
Well,
that
find it and then you can talk about it. No,
I hate you.
I'm kidding. Go ahead.
It's just that they brand something as, say, 20.1 megapixels out of the box, and then when you're shooting, the whole entire time you don't realize that you're shooting at 18 megapixels, or with, say, the I don't know. I've used Galaxy Note 3. That's the best example, I think.
Yeah.
It says 13 megapixels, and then you're actually shooting at
9.6
out of the box.
Yeah.
Out of the box. So they're marketing it as one thing, and people were like, "Yeah, that's great," and they actually never know, usually, probably, that they're not actually shooting at full resolution, and that just it doesn't matter that much.
Yeah,
but
I mean,
for
so
some reason,
freaking
it just
what?
kind of it makes me angry. Just, I mean, how else are they going to market it? I know. They're not going to market it as a 13 megapixel camera that you're probably only going to ever use at 9.6. But it's just, to me, that just, there's some disconnect there.
Yeah, I'm impressed they're even putting the decimal points in with like this 20.1 stuff. It's not rounding at all. It's always been close enough is close enough.
Yeah. I think we're of a mind on that.
I just end rant.
Well, there was I think, that's what it was. This is a public service announcement. It's not a question, but this is from Min Nguyen. Hi, guys. Listen to your last podcast. I couldn't help writing in about the Nest and Android home automation, so we touched on this earlier in the show. Everyone after CES is talking about Wemo and other home automation as if it's such a new thing. I've been doing it for a while now. I think all the new stuff is too pricey and proprietary. Yeah. With a Vera Lite and some Z-Wave devices, I've been able to control or monitor everything in my home. Lights, garage door, locks, IR TV, alarm, thermostat, even my sprinklers can be controlled with my phone. With Android, I'm even easily able to make APK apps, so you can activate scenes with a single click. It's nothing new, and should be mentioned because it shows the power of Android. Well,
he's got a point. I mean, 2001, I had my college house I was renting all wired up to be controlled over the internet for lights and crap.
I'll do you one better. Back when I was like 7, I had a neighbor whose house was all wired up. He had a remote that was like, it was an RF remote. He could be in any room and control the lights, control the fans, and turn the TV, and just so you're like, yeah.
But we're lowering the bar for entry is why this is becoming more exciting.
Exactly right. It's like Jaime's old example with the iPhone revolutionizing web browsing. Yes, you could do it before, but it kind of sucked, and you needed to be a geek, right? Yeah. Now
it's more consumer friendly now.
Exactly. We're letting everyone in on the fun now.
If you use the phrase, you can easily build APKs to do more than
yeah.
Okay.
I'm going to one-up both of you, though.
There's a level of geek there.
And say that I use Jedi mind tricks to turn on my bedroom light. So,
yeah, you're right.
Close your eyes and then your dog starts jumping like crazy, trying to turn on the switch or what?
Right, who's got one to take us to the next step? Who's got a piece of mail waiting to be read? Because we're coming to the end run game terminus.
Yeah, I'm
cool words.
Yeah. I think we got
Michael's struggling with sentence structure again.
It's starting to, we're starting to lose cohesion. So we're coming to last. Let's call it 3 more. Anybody?
3 more.
There's 8 more that aren't claimed in the box. My name. Yeah.
I need to refresh.
Yeah. Hey, Pocketnow team. My name is Cooper, and I was wondering, what OEM skin on top of Android is your favorite, and why? Also, Moto Blur does not count. This email comes to us from 2008, everyone.
Blur still exists because Motorola internal still refers to it as Blur.
That's hilarious.
Look into some of the code, and it says Blur.
Cooper Doll, thank you.
Don't worry, you don't need to say that Moto Blur doesn't count. We weren't going to count it in anyways.
Yeah. Jaime, why don't you answer first? What's your favorite skin?
I've been using the Google Now launcher, and I love it.
And then from the Nexus 5, like the stock one?
Yeah.
That's not really that's not an OEM skin. You can't answer that way. That's cheating.
Well, that's part of the Nexus 5. I'm using it on the Note 3, and I love it.
It's not an OEM skin, though. It's Android with a custom launcher. What's your favorite skin?
Okay, fine. Sense 5.
Okay. Sense 5 from the HTC one? Sense 2013 edition?
Yeah, for me, that's my favorite.
Cool. Yeah, I dig that. What about you, Steven?
I don't know that I can answer this one. I'm really only familiar with stock Android in my personal devices.
Mm-hmm.
Crap. What version of Sense was on the original, or what version of Touch was on the original Note? That one was good, I guess.
2010 era TouchWiz is Steven's answer. What about you, Taylor?
We are the worst people ever to ask this question because I don't like TouchWiz. I don't like Sense. I don't really like Sony's, whatever you want to call it. I abhor LG's. Motorola's, which is basically stock.
Also cheating. Yeah.
How is it cheating? It is Motorola. Okay. Motorola didn't change visually much, but they did bake some stuff into it. So it's technically still an OEM custom.
It's an OEM version. It's
Motorola.
I wouldn't call it a third.
You know why?
It's all about the look.
Google Now. That's why. Bam.
I found 1,455,000 results for That's Why.
Wait. Okay, Google now. What's up?
The sky, brilliant.
Hello, the time is 55 in the afternoon. You received a notification from Cal at 1650, $1,700.
All right.
I could read that for a long time.
Yeah, I know. All right. So, Cooper, I'll answer your question. For me, it's if I have to pick, it's going to be Sense 5 as well. I'm in the boat with Jaime. Maybe that'll become Sense 6 if HTC doesn't end up forcing that green UI element on us. We'll see. I don't know. I think the Sense skin would have to win mine. It's certainly not TouchWiz. Sony, I actually do like Sony's skin quite a bit, but it doesn't live up to HTC's work for me. So
I don't like it.
For what it's worth, Samsung brings a lot of value. And mainly
multi-window
really,
support is the only
that's
thing.
really it. That is it. Like, that is the only feature that Samsung has spent days, weeks, or months creating that I actually use.
You mean
the only one, multi-window? Yeah.
You mean you don't like the magazine UX, Taylor?
I love hitting refresh 12 times. I love it.
Yeah. Jaime has taken off. Jaime, I want to thank you for taking time out of your day to roll up and help us cut through some of the backlog. Everyone always says they miss you, so anytime you can come on the show is always a nice holiday for us.
Yeah, I wish the girl neighbor that was right here on the side would say the same. She misses me too. But anyways.
Jaime Rivera, creeping up the outros ever since 2010.
All right, dudes. Thanks for having me. Talk to you soon. I have to go build the daily.
All right. Great to hear your voice, brother. Look forward to seeing the daily.
You too. Take care. Bye-bye.
Later, man. Oh, great. So, Stephen, are you going to save us from ourselves?
I have one left.
Great. Good. That's perfect. That's all we need.
Well,
no? That's all right.
Guy Benthal writes, Dear Pocketnow team, I am a listener of the podcast and I have a question for you guys on the air. I'm a user of the iPhone 4 and I'm due for an upgrade in the summer. But until then, there's one question on my mind. Is my phone flammable? If yes, should I be worried about this? Thanks a lot. Love the podcast. Guy Benthal.
I saw this one and I found it to be awesome. Taylor, why don't you answer?
Flammable? Is your phone flammable?
Tell him, is it?
Yes, I guess.
All right, there you have it, guys.
It's like,
I assume that this is referring to the stories we hear once in a while of iPhone batteries specifically bursting. And there was one recently, I think, about a 5S. But I did look, I quickly Googled this, and yeah, there were reports of iPhone 4 batteries bursting in years past. And yeah, if the phone's really old, I assume it would be at a slightly higher risk of random inflagration. It's
yeah, like
there are many reasons to upgrade from an iPhone 4, and especially at this point in time. It being potentially flammable, probably not top of the list.
Probably
not.
No,
not flammability for a reason to upgrade. No, but I remember when I worked at Best Buy, there was a girl who came in. She had a Palm Trio, and that thing would not sit flat on a table. Because the battery was so expanded.
Swollen?
It actually bowed the plastic out on the back, and it wouldn't sit flat. And the battery itself was about 1.5 inches thick.
That's incredible.
And I'm like, you need to get away from this phone immediately. Best salesman tactic ever.
Yeah, so Guy, if your phone is swollen at the moment, maybe put it in a drawer and back away from it for a while.
Yeah. There are reports of that happening. There are also false reports of people saying that their phones have exploded on them after different things have happened. I remember one, it was the original Moto Droid. A guy had claimed that it exploded in his ear while he was having a phone call.
Oof.
And what had happened is actually, the guy was just trying to make a buck. He dropped it and shattered the glass, and he was talking on it, and the glass like just shredded his ear.
Oh, I remember that.
Yeah. Wow. So just be wary of what you're reading. But yeah, just No, I don't think you have to worry about your phone exploding on you. Unless it is bowed up.
Bowed out. Bowed out.
Bowed up. It's all bowed up.
It's all bowed up. If y'all's phone is all bowed up, you go ahead and cut that off. You know, we should have had a warning at the top of the show that, like, we would get progressively less...
Good.
Yeah, good. As the show went on, eloquent is the word I was looking for. This has been a downhill run, and I'm glad that we got to the end of it because
There's been a slow gas leak in the Pocketnow offices if you're recording this.
Oh yeah. Oh, there's a news embargo tonight too. I have to talk to you about something, Stephen.
Oh, okay.
So yeah. With that being said, we have just answered listener mail officially for 2 hours. Well, minus 20 minutes talking about the new wearable stuff. So we have gotten to inbox 0 on the podcast inbox, which deserves a nice little pat on the back for everybody. Good job.
No, we haven't.
We have. Refresh it.
This is 8.
Refresh it.
Oh, 0!
I jumped out a long time ago.
Taylor bailed on this ship. And just miles back.
I just decided that I was going to wreck the rest of the podcast.
Yeah.
It's more fun.
Well, that's all right, because I got New England clam chowder to eat, so I'm going to go do that. Yeah, I know. It's good, right?
Yeah.
So I think it's time we go. But the nice thing is, and this is what I should have said at the top of the show, this is a 2-hour podcast. And since it's a little earlier this week, you have a little longer to go until we next come on the air to be in your ears again, listeners. You can split this into bite-sized pieces for your consumption over the next week. But if you've already listened this far, then now it's too late. You can't do that, so sorry.
You didn't think that one through, did you?
Sure didn't.
What we should do is split this up into a million 15-second Instagram videos like Rick and Morty did last week.
Oh, God.
Post them all. Get it 15 seconds at a time.
There you go. Bite-sized
Easily digestible.
chunks.
Yeah.
Exactly right. Well, listeners, thank you for filling our mailbag with enough mail to go on for... We could probably have done like a 6-hour podcast with some of the backlog, so I'm glad we didn't do that. Our voices and brains would not have survived, but I'm really glad that we got to answer some of these, and thank you to everyone for your fine thoughts and excellent questions, and just for listening. Gentlemen, final remarks before we get out of here. Anything exciting we can look forward to in the days ahead? Stephen?
No, I think this whole smartphone thing's pretty much played out.
Just done, right? We're gonna start reviewing ride-on lawnmowers starting next week.
Oh,
Stay
I have some
tuned
thoughts
for that.
Can I cover, lawnmower racing news?
Absolutely, yes. We're actually going to sponsor lawnmower races, so stay tuned for that. The quality of your cuts will be inspected, and we will also have recommendations for the best Gatorade flavor to slake on hot summer days mowing the lawn. So
Orange.
all that. No, I completely disagree. We're going to go with a berry flavor. Yeah, the blue ones are always the best because they look like Romulan ale. You can always have a good time with Romulan ale. Anyway, I think that we have now officially overstayed our welcome. Anyone who stuck this far to the end, we thank you very, very much. A note on music for this show. Our transition track is called Radiation. You may recognize it as one of the ringtones on your Nexus 4 or Galaxy Nexus, and it's also a full-length song by a musician called Ali Spagnola, an artist with millions of fans and a lot of fun to her live shows and concerts. Ali has a bunch of very fun videos at her new YouTube channel, youtube.com/AliSpags, and at her website, alispagnola.com, both of them linked in the description below. Thanks to Stephen Schenk and Taylor Martin for sticking around to the end of the podcast, because that's going to do it for this episode of The Weekly. Thank you for joining us, everyone. And again, thank you for all your listener mail every week. We read every piece. Be sure to find us on Twitter. Jaime, who left earlier, is Jaime_Rivera. Taylor is at Cash Protect. I am at Captain Two Phones. You can also follow Pocketnow officially at Pocketnow on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook. Stephen Schenk is at Stephen Schenk, even though he never uses his Twitter account.
Yeah, but it's there, isn't it?
He's so bent. Yeah, it is there. I like when you do show up on Twitter because it's fun. It's like a vacation.
I only go to start fights.
Yeah. If you enjoy the podcast, we hope you enjoy it. Please follow the example of hundreds who've gone before you. Leave us a review. iTunes, Xbox Music, Stitcher, wherever else podcasts are heard. As always, one last time, our heartfelt thanks for listening. And we will be back with more mobile tech talk and or lawnmower observations next week.
Untethered! Woo! Woo! Woo!
Call recorder started. No more about kids. And
I also can't hardwire because whatever reason it's not working. The adapter
hey,
isn't.
man, listen, you go to the doctor for that after the show. Let's just get the thing done.
I will punch you in the throat the next time I see you.